Another morning, another shitty IUL in my inbox. Imagine paying $1,000 a month and you've just been throwing your money into a trash can the entire time, and you have to reach out to the girl on TikTok or YouTube and ask, is this policy set up right? Because I don't think that it is. This person sent me their policy after they'd already been contributing for 3 years. That means 36 grand has gone into this policy, okay? The IUL is from Nationwide, which is even more frustrating because it's such a well-known company that people typically think like, oh, Nationwide is on my side, right? But in most cases, when it comes to cash value life insurance, Nationwide is not on your side. Those heatless curlers, though, definitely on your side. Enough chit-chat. Let's get into it. Welcome to my office. I don't think you're ready for this. Here we go. Nationwide is on your side. Or is it? We are going to find out. So this first page is talking about the premium expense charge, which I think is important to just note, because on year one, the premium expense charge is 8%. And then on years 2 and going forward, the premium expense charge is 6%. Now, typically, the IUL has about a 5% premium expense charge. That's industry-wide, or at least the IULs that I use. So to see a 6% is pretty high. 8% in the first year as well. So that first year is going to be a lot more expensive. And this is just a portion of the cost of insurance, or the fees, right? The 8% and the 6% is just one fee inside the IUL, and it's already pretty high. So we're not starting off great, but there's not really much else on this page. So let's scroll down and we get to the indexes. Well, what do they do with the indexes? We got the S&P 500 uncapped point to point that has 50% of the money, and then we have the 1 year high cap S&P point-to-point strategy for another 50%. So basically, 100% of the money is in the S&P 500. One of them is uncapped, and one of them has a high cap. They're not giving us any more information about it, so hopefully as we go through the illustration, they're going to let us know what the cap is and what else is happening with this uncapped S&P, because if you're not aware already, there is no S&P 500 that's just uncapped, unlimited earnings. Typically, there's going to be a spread rate attached to it, which would mean that whatever the index returns, whatever the S&P 500 returns throughout the year, you're going to have to subtract the spread rate. So it's not capped, but you're having to subtract a portion of the interest to get your final interest credit. So I'm not mad at the fact that everything's in the S&P. Honestly, that's actually our only options, it looks like right here. But at least it's a historical index, right? We didn't use some proprietary index that has no history. So I'm okay with this. When we keep scrolling, we get a little insight as to who set up this policy. World Financial Group, good old WFG. That already tells us everything else that we need to know about this policy, that it's going to be a disaster. If we keep scrolling, we're going to see that the no lapse guaranteed premium is $444 a month. And then we get to find out that the client is contributing $1,000 a month, right? Well, right down here, we have the initial death benefit of $1.5 million. And it's an increasing death benefit. Great. Not a good sign. $1,000 a month, a $1.5 million death benefit, WFG. This is all turning out to be a big disaster, unfortunately. If we come down, they're letting us know the riders that are within this policy. We have a critical illness rider. We have a terminal illness rider, the overloan protection rider, and we do have long-term care, which everything but the long-term care is pretty typical. The long-term care is valuable, right? And the long-term care specified amount matches that same death benefit of $1.5 million. Now, long-term care is also going to be typically an added charge, right? You don't get long-term care riders for free. These things are either worked into the policy or they're an added charge within the policy. But let's keep going. Looks like we're coming on to the guaranteed numbers, right? So the guaranteed numbers are going to give us not an accurate projection, but a projection nonetheless. So they're saying that the client started this policy on year one when they were 34 years old. 12 grand was contributed. That death benefit's 1.5. And then because this is the guaranteed numbers, we're not earning any interest, right? So the accumulated value and the cash value are showing nothing. And then they're showing that the death benefit is not increasing, which makes sense because the accumulated value is not going up. So there's nothing to increase the death benefit by. And if we keep scrolling, it's going to lapse after 20 years. Lapse, which not a good sign because this person would have still wanted to be contributing to this policy. They haven't even reached a typical retirement age yet. So, wow. And if we go scroll down, they're showing all of these ages. Lapse. Wow, this is not great. Even for guarantees, like this is really bad. Let's keep going. Okay, now we have our current, right? Our current return projection. So based on those index options, the S&P 500. Now what do we have? Well, the first thing that stands out to me is that we got these zeros in the cash value 3 years in a row. And on year one, the accumulated value is $6,400, but that's half of the money that we contributed into the policy. Now we can see the death benefit going up. And let's keep going. We don't get a cash value until year 4 of only 5 grand. It's not great. Let's say after 10 years, we would have put in 120,000. We have 69 and 66. So 66,000 available, 69,000 as the total value of the policy after putting in 120. This is supposed to be based on the S&P 500. The fact that the S&P 500 statistically returns around 10% a year is telling me that this policy is so expensive. Let's keep going and see if this one's going to lapse at any point. They're showing no more money go in after age 65. So, okay, policy is still in force. After all of that time, we ended up with 327,000. And then it looks like it kind of already started going down. So we had 327,977. And then that next year it dropped $27. And then it dropped like $700. So if we keep going, just going to drop. And okay, we didn't take out any money, but the policy is going to lapse. So we didn't, if you didn't die and you didn't even take out any of your money to supplement any income during retirement, you're still going to lose a policy. What? Like, what the heck is that, man? Let's keep going. Let's see what we got. Here is the actual illustration. And it does say revised. Maybe they got a different health rating once they submitted the policy. This is their indexed UL accumulator 2 must have come out in 2020. All good. This illustration and application were put into force in 2021. So it has been a few years, right? But this is a policy review. So obviously, things might have changed since then, but that means that this person has had this policy in force for the last 3 years. Now, here are our indexes. So we know that we were using the point-to-point uncapped S&P, and then we had the point-to-point high cap S&P. Well, what's our high cap? 12.5%. That's a pretty good cap, honestly. But then the uncapped, no cap. Okay. Told you there's going to be a spread rate. So the spread rate is 7.5%. Now, that means if the S&P 500 were to return 10%, right, then the IUL is only going to be credited 2.5%. Like, why? Now, over here, if it earned 10, you get 10, right? But they do have these little parentheses around the guarantees, which I would love to point out to you guys, because they're saying right now the spread rate on this index is 7.5%, but it's guaranteed to be at most 10%. So again, if the S&P 500 returned to 10, if the spread rate got changed to 10, the IUL got credited nothing. Now, over here, the guaranteed cap is 4%. So they could decide to change that 12.5% cap anytime, and this would no longer be labeled a 1-year high cap index. I'm not like terribly disappointed in the index options. The 7.5% spread is kind of high. But if the S&P 500 were to return over 20%, which it absolutely does, then we're going to get in the double digits on our return within our IUL. And 12.5 is not bad. So it's not the worst that I've seen. It's really not. But let's keep going. And what are we going to come to next? Well, now we have the actual illustration. This is our same guaranteed projection. So we had the 50% in each of those indexes. We're not seeing any interest earned. And what do we have? Just 1.5 mil in death benefit, no cash value, no surrender value, no nothing. But we're just putting in 12 grand a year. If we keep going, that should say that it lapsed. Okay, great. That was $252,000, which is wild, honestly, to try to sell somebody this. Okay, now we should be at our non-guaranteed. Perfect. So this illustration is running between 6 and 7%. We have 50 and 50, so 6 and 7. So call it 6.5%, right? Which not a crazy high rate of return, but over here we have our 3 years of nothing. We actually saw the death benefit go up. Why did it go back down? Oh, look at that. Death benefit option 2 increasing, but switch to option 1 in year 2. What? What is the thought process here, WFG? Why would you have it increase for 1 year just to level it out? That doesn't make any sense at all, which is really weird. Anyway, okay, now we can get a clear view of like, okay, 120,000 went in. We have 79 and 76, which I believe is different than the illustration we looked at before. Whatever was in those initial documents. No problem though. We still see that after 15 years, 180 grand went in and we have only 152,000. Not great. We did see that the accumulated value or the account value and the net cash surrender value equaled out at year 11, which means their surrender period is only 10 years long. So that's good. I like when the surrender period is shorter, only 10 years. But, I just found the guidelines too. I just found the guidelines in very small print right underneath all of this stuff. So what do we got? Well, the target premium of this policy is $14,736. You guys know what that means, right? That means that this 12 grand, not even covering the target premium. Not even the goal amount is being contributed into this policy. What's the max contribution, you ask? $56,000 a year. $56,000 a year could go into this policy and obviously is not. Why? Why would you set the policy up this way? What's with the switching the death benefit after year 1? 12 grand is a lot of money. It doesn't make any sense. If we keep going, we got 360,000 that went in. We have 544,000. We have that same 1.5, but with an extra $6,300, which is so weird to me. No more money went into the policy, right? We can see all those zeros. And then 41,000 came out, but the total loan balance is saying 0, which means that this is a withdrawal. So this is not a loan against the policy. They actually withdrew $124,000 at this point. So what's happening now is when you take a withdrawal, both of these numbers are going to go down, and we can see it. So 626,000 was the total inside the policy. And we can see it drop to 618 and 609 and 600,000 and 590 and 579 and 567 and 555 and 549. But now I'm noticing that the net surrender value is less than the account value, which tells me over here that we finally started taking loans. So there's our total loan balance. Only 7,800 came out as a loan, which again, weird, but now the rest of these are going to be loans. So we're going to see that the net cash surrender value is going down, but our account value will now keep going up, which is what we want, right? We want to take loans because we want to keep earning interest on all of the money like it hasn't left. So I don't know why this agent would take out partial withdrawals for retirement income and have their client earn interest on less money. It doesn't make sense. If we keep going, we already saw that the middle column, right, which had our alternate interest rate and the current charges, it lapsed. When did it lapse? Up here after 6 years of income. No more policy. No more policy. And then if we scroll over here, we only took income till age 85, which again doesn't make sense. There's obviously a lot less money in the net cash surrender value, but like, why? Why would we even? So you're going to tell somebody, okay, take $41,000 a year for like 20 years, and then you don't get to take money anymore. Because I'm sure that if they took any more, policy was going to lapse. So it's just draining itself. I mean, not a lot of people live till they're 108, which is when this policy is like at nothing. But still, they weren't able to take any more. So what did they take out? They took out $828,000 if they got to be 98 years old. They didn't get to take income for the last like 15 years, but there's only $288,000 left. Almost $400,000. You got back, double plus some. You didn't get back triple. This is a ridiculous policy. I don't know how anyone could sell this. Honestly, I don't understand. I am not talking about the client here. The client, I don't care if they know better or didn't know better. Like, they're asking for help from a licensed professional. The agent, how does an agent do this and sleep at night? Doesn't make sense to me. And that's most likely it. Now they're going to print out our guidelines in a much bigger way. Cool. We have our no lapse guaranteed premium of $445 a month. We have our target premium of $14,736 and our max contribution of $56,000. Boo! You guys know what the agent made on this case, right? We know that the agent made a solid $14,000. It's wild. Imagine putting $36,000 away into a life insurance policy and you have nothing to show for it other than $1.5 million over your head, which other people are paying $100 a month for. Like $12,000 a year for $1.5 million in death benefit is the most expensive term policy I've ever heard of. Something needs to change in the industry. Something needs to change at WFG because this is not acceptable. Water break. One of the hardest parts about being in the position that I'm in because of social media and calling out insurance agents and trying to teach people the proper way to set up these policies is having conversations like I had with this client, who she happens to be a veteran and she's also a mom, and she was saving for her retirement, and she was told that this policy was going to be so beneficial and so valuable to her, but she was just completely lied to. And so I have to come in and tell her the truth and, break her heart in a way. Losing $36,000 as a parent And as anybody, as a hardworking person, as someone who's served our country, that's devastating. But I'm going to show you how I would have set this policy up correctly right now. First things first, I would have never used Nationwide. Just me. Wouldn't use them. I would have used Allianz. They've been around for a really long time. They're still a really well-known company. They're not as well-known as Nationwide, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the financial ratings of the company, which Allianz happens to be an A-rated company that's been around for over 100 years. So anyway, let me show you what this policy looks like. We got a female, 34 years old, standard health rating, initial death benefit, $280,000. I'm running the illustration at a 6.65. It wasn't clear exactly what the rate of return in the Nationwide IUL was. It was somewhere between 6 and 7%, so 6.65 will do. And let's get into these numbers because starting off, cash value, year one. More than half the money available already. Death benefits also going to increase. So now we've put in $12,000. We have an account value, the total value of the policy that's earning interest, $10,681 with that $7,200 available after year one, right? By year 5, $60,000 has gone in, and look at that. We already have more earning interest than we've contributed. $61,000, also more than what we've contributed, available in the cash value. Death benefits now up to $344,000. 10 years in, $120,000 went in. We have $157,000 earning and $156,000 available. $437,000 in the death benefit. Now, Allianz does have a longer surrender period. It's actually 12 years. We don't see these numbers even out until year 13. But if we can get better results, shouldn't matter. If we look at the 20-year return, $240,000 went in. Now we have $489,000 and $800,000 in the death benefit. Looks like we get to that $1 million of death benefit by age 58. Our $300,000 has turned into $773,000. If we keep scrolling, no more money goes into the policy. There we go. $0 going in. Our $372,000 has turned into $1.2 million, and we have $1.5 million in the death benefit. Now, I was able to start taking an income at age 66 of $119,000, and those are loans. You can see the account value kept going up and the cash value was going down. So was the death benefit. That's what we want. No partial surrenders or withdrawals should be being taken. That just defeats the purpose of leveraging an asset. Anyway, if we keep going, already by age 74, the client would have pulled out $1 million, still had $1.2 million in the death benefit. If we keep going, 84 years old, no more money has gone in. We've pulled out $2.2 million, still have $937,000 as the death benefit, still have $710,000 in the cash value. If we keep going, that policy is going to last forever. That income is going to last forever. So age 99, they've pulled out $4 million and they would still have $757,000 in the death benefit. The differences are insane. Like, I don't even have to go back and show you guys what the other policy looked like because we already know how much better it is right now. I think I said before that the client didn't even double or didn't even triple their return. Now, triple, quadruple, 5x, 10x their return. Woo! In this policy. And like I said, it's going to last forever. Forever. Oh my gosh. Let's go look at the guidelines so you can see the minimum and maximum contribution amounts on this policy. Before I show you the guidelines, I just want to point out that there's still a chronic illness rider. There's still a There's still a terminal illness rider, and there's also the overloan protection rider. So we're getting almost all of the same things except that long-term care. And then our guidelines are really small and right here in the corner where the max contribution, the guideline level annual premium, would you look at that, it equals $12,078. And then the target premium, my gosh, I just took a major pay cut because the target premium is $1,549. $1,500 compared to over $14,000. Why is it hard for you guys to do the right thing at WFG? I don't understand. It's really easy. It's really easy because guess what? This client is going to be happy and she's going to go and tell her friends and family how happy she is. And then they're going to come and talk to me. And so I'm going to get to make more money. And I'm going to get to keep my clients' policies in force. Is it that wild of a concept? And there you have it. If you liked this video, if you found value in it, please subscribe to my channel, give the video a like. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye!